Hi guys, Ronnie here and welcome to the workshop. As promised last time, today I have an update for you regarding my tire choice for this year for both bikes actually. Let's start with the time trial bike. Recently I started using the Veloflex Record clincher based on its exceptionally low rolling resistance numbers from Aerocoach's tests. So I ditched the Corsa Speed tubeless ready tires in favor of these. Currently they're set up with Challenge latex tubes, which are seamless, so they're quite nice. Obviously, if you're into high performance, then using latex tubes is a must, particularly with an open tubular construction. With this one, that's where you get the most benefit out of them, even more so than with a vulcanized tire. So let's talk about how this tire is. Now, I've already shown you how this tires looks like in the packaging and when they're not installed. They're super thin and have a very dense 350 TPI, I believe, construction, and extremely minimal rubber thread on there. But despite that, even though I was a bit afraid of how it will perform in the real world, I have to report that so far, having ridden around 500 kilometers on this pair of tires, I purposefully left them on even for training, just to see how sturdy they are, if they're even worth considering for real world time trials, because let's face it, no matter how fast it is, I don't want to risk having a puncture at the Nationals or any other important TT. But so far so good, zero punctures and this 500 kilometers despite riding all of my usual roads. And also there are no real cuts that I could see. And yeah, as I said, I rode them in a perfectly normal way, not being extremely careful with them. I rode them through some debris, arguably, some road grime, etc. and nothing really happened. So as far as that's concerned, well, yeah, it's out of the way. They perform like any other performance tire, I would say. Then we have some other subjects. Obviously, I have no way or even need to test the rolling resistance because that's pretty much covered and it's pretty straightforward. But one thing I wanted to address earlier is the width. Now, this is a 23mm tire. It's not made in any larger width, and when I first installed it on the massive 31.6mm wide head V8 that I have here, it looked a bit too skinny, but since it has been on for a good couple of weeks now, it kind of stretched, so now it's a very nice and flush fit. Inflates around 26mm on this 21mm wide internal rim width, so that's also very nice. And a couple other practicalities regarding the tire itself, because it has such an extremely soft and pliable carcass, I had to inflate it to higher pressures. Normally I run around 90 psi depending on the course, on the Corsas, or the Corsa speeds should I say, right over there. Yeah, but here when I inflated them to 90 psi, they were a bit wondery and soft, so I had to go up to 100 psi and will possibly try 105 to 110 on very smooth courses. So that's one thing to keep in mind, apart from the width dilation. Yeah, also inflating them to higher pressure means that they get wider, so they conform better to the rim. So it's a win-win, unless your course is rough, of course. But then you shouldn't be on these tires anyway. Then regarding ride characteristics, yeah, for aforementioned reasons, the ride is very smooth and very supple, as you would expect. And this makes it also surprisingly grippy. At first, when the tire was very skinny and I underinflated it, it was a bit weird and wallowy. But when I started riding it, I got the pressures correctly, they stretched a little bit, Now I have to say I'm very confident with them in the corners too. Also with no fear of puncturing, so yeah, I have to say I'm thoroughly impressed with the tire. They're also super light. Not that it really matters here, but if you want to build a hill climb special, or just transform your setup a little bit for hill climbing, then this is also a very good option. So yeah, really they tick all the boxes. If you check the rear tire for wear in these couple hundred kilometers, nothing that I can really see. Of course there's no thread or wear marks, wear indicators, anything in that regard, so it's a bit it's quite hard to judge, but you won't really see squaring off from this tire because the rubber layer on there is so thin that there's just really nothing to square off, and I think or expect the carcass to just show at some point. But I'll be leaving these on for training just to get an extra peace of mind, or see how they turn up. Also I'm curious about the actual mileage or kilometerage here in Slovakia that I'll be able to extract from them. So yeah, Veloflex Record, big thumbs up from me. And then let's have a quick word about the other tire that I'm using, and I got a lot of questions about this too, even though it's a fairly well-known tire and it has been around for a while now. So this is the S-Works Turbo Cotton. It has very similar characteristics actually to Veloflex, with the only difference being that it's a bit sturdier and quite a bit slower. But for road racing it's perfect, because you need that added I would say puncture protection and safety, and also it's quite a bit more grippy. My bike as it is now, the tarmac SL frame, the head, super wide wheels, and these tires, they just, well, it just corners like it's on rails. I never had a setup like this before, so very happy with that. And you can also notice on my bike that I didn't have before is a puncture repair kit in this very neat little Silka saddlebag here. The reason for this, I've been riding tubeless for the last 2 or 3 years, and in that time I never really got a single puncture. So at some point I just stopped carrying any spares because there was no point. But now with tubes, I'm sure you will agree, there's a bit more risk involved despite the performance benefits, so I just opt to take one or take a couple of spares, particularly when I'm going on long rides which can take me around 50 kilometers from home, longer 4 or 5 hours of endurance training during the weekend. So yep, this is what the setups look like now. Because of the smaller frame, I started experimenting a little bit with my position, and I have a couple of interesting marginal gains going on in my shoes right now, which I'll tell you about in separate videos. So regarding the tires, all good so far. Also, there have been a couple of questions about this little thing. This is the Vredestein super light latex tube, and it's quite a bit lighter than the ones from Challenge and Victoria, and also a couple cents of a watt quicker. So I just got these recently. I'm going to test these out, so stay tuned for that. All for today, thanks for watching and see you next time.